What I'm going to go go through, talk about is data fetching in Gatsby. So before I do that, we'll do the standard slides. So what I was going to call this talk, let's try this. Boop. Was build time and client runtime data fetching in Gatsby, but that's a bit of a mouthful. So I'll just go with Gatsby data fetching. Okay, so before we go into the talk, a little bit about me. My name's Scott. I've been a developer. I've been a web developer since 2018, professionally. Prior to that, I was an analyst developer for large financial organisations like, I'm just reading for the list here, Barclays, Fidelity, and Deloitte. Good times. I'm married. I've got a wife and a daughter. That's not them. Just you know, no. We are very happy. I'm also I'm a cat dad. I could talk about these all night. Boris, Leo, Darcy. There you go. Okay. So icebreakers out of the way. Let's talk a bit more about where I'm from. I work at a place called Karmarama. We do a lot of, it's an ad agency. We do a lot of adverts for things like the Army. It's a good campaign we've got going at the moment. Lidl, guide dogs for the blind. And I work for the creative products department. And we work with clients like Tesco's. I'm not sure if we still work with them, but after what I've heard this evening, we also work for do stuff with BT, EDF, and SSE, and we've used Gatsby for several of our clients. So we've got Gatsby in production, and I'll share a couple of the links with you now. So first one is this one. You may have seen this advert in the cinema, and that really is the URL. You can also use the English spelling for us. There's also one for ASI style guide. It's Aberdeen Standard Investments. That's the one you want to look at. And this is all. What this guy here just said, it's all static. Who knows about Gatsby? What Gatsby is? A couple of people. Cool. So before we talk about that, we're also hiring. So let's get that out of the way. So right, I do like to use excessive use of GIFs, memes, and emoji. So let's get cracking with the poll. I've already asked who knows about Gatsby, not many people. So that's going to sort of determine the rest of the talk. So anyone use Gatsby at work? Woo, right, so the rest of my questions are irrelevant. Okay, cool. So there's this thing which wasn't just coined by the Gatsby team, but it's this thing called the content mesh, where historically things CMSs have all been in one big blob for everything you want to take care of. And with Gatsby, they're sort of breaking this thing down into only the services you need, so you can bring them into Gatsby, and then sort of Gatsby's like a compile target for all of those services you want to put together. But I'm here specifically to talk about just getting the data in there. There's great developer tooling for Gatsby. It's great CLI, and it takes care of a lot of the stuff in the project for you. So before I go any further, I can see some blank looks. So Gatsby is it's like a progressive web app generator. That's what they call it, not a static site generator, not like Jekyll or Hugo. You can use React in it. and code away like you would with that, and then when you compile it, it will compile to static HTML, CSS, JS files, which you can put on a file server somewhere, and then it will rehydrate the React components on the other side for you. So I just talked about the tooling for Gatsby. There's a GraphQL data layer. So at runtime, build time, or development time, it will bring in all of the project files, and it uses like a permissive schema. So it will just bring in all that data, and you'll be able to access it via a graphical GraphQL Explorer. Anyone know what graphical is? A couple of people. Cool. So Gatsby, like I said, with this Graphical Explorer, it lets you shape your data you want. So GraphQL, if you know what GraphQL is, it lets you get your data a la carte, as they say. Just get the specific bits of data that you need for your component or for whatever you're working with at that point. And it also helps with like visualization when you're developing stuff. So I'll come on to that. Talking about APIs, Gatsby loves APIs. So emoji. So I'm going to be going over getting data. What am I going over? Look at my notes. Wow. Okay, so let's ignore the notes. Okay? Yeah, cool. Right, so I'm going to talk about 3 ways. This isn't the de facto 3 ways. There's many more ways, but this is the 3 ways which I usually do things, or you can do things. So the first one is build time. So at build time, like I quickly went over, let's go back to our content mesh here. So at build time, it can bring in all this information for you and compile it statically. So anything which needs to happen to bring in, basically it's not high transactional stuff. So this would be, I mean, you could use it for an e-commerce site. I know Harry's, do you know Harry's, the razor blade company? Anyone? No? They do use it for these Gatsby 4 e-commerce, but it's not a high transactional thing. So it depends on how often your data changes. Because any time the data changes, you either have to get it at runtime or at build time. So let's go back to those slides. Get there. Build time. Yeah. So like I said, the Gatsby data layer. Gatsby's got a massive ecosystem of plugins, source plugins, for things to bring in any third-party information you would like, and it's a very vibrant and there's a lot going on there basically. So if you want to get basically just check if there's a plugin for it. It's like a catchphrase on my team now. They all poke fun at me for it. And I am evangelising this in my team. And to punish me, they're making me use Preact at the moment. So I'm happy to talk about it here. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me ramble. Okay, so like I said, build time. When you build your project, at that time is when you bring in all of your information you need and build it. And then you'd push off your built site to a CDN somewhere or a file server, if you want to live your life like that. And then all the networking stuff is taken care of by someone who's not me. And then that's it. Your site is there, relatively secure. It can take high loads, and that's it. But what if your data needs to change? So you can, at runtime, bring in your data as you need it. And there's many ways to do it. I'm just going to go over two different ways to do it. So, who wants to see an example? So this is there's a lot of starters for Gatsby, a lot of templates you can use, and this is just the default starter. And I'm going to have to get my notes up here because there's lots to talk about. In here, so there's 3 endpoints I've got here. The Rick and Morty endpoint, there's a Spotify endpoint, and there's also a coin law one, which I haven't got listed on here for some reason. So, build time. Gatsby at build time does this weird thing with GraphQL. So I've got a GraphQL import here from Gatsby, and at build time it strips this out here, and it will use that in. Let's get back into view. Hang on a sec. So Gatsby does this thing where it will. This is a GraphQL query, and this is also the shape of the data we're going to use to populate our sort of vanilla React component here. So the data comes in as props, and I'm just destructuring the characters from that, and then mapping over those in that there, and then that gives us our build time example. And because I am not managing anything locally, so I'm not caching these images, so that's why you see, I haven't even got my hotspot on. Right, let's wait for that to connect. So these should be images, and they're not. Anyway, moving on. Right, so this is the Graphical Explorer you get in Gatsby. So you go to your local host, ///GraphQL, and this is the GraphEQL Explorer. I don't know where the name come from, sorry. And in here, the plugins you set up at the start bring in all this data. So, you can't see any of it. Let's just move this over a bit. How's that? Much better. Okay, so this is local data, all site data. You're looking there, you get stuff like your pages, your 404s. This is the Rick and Morty API I brought in. And here's that coin law data. And there's like metadata, loads of stuff there you can use throughout your project with this this pattern we've got going on here. So you can abstract stuff out here. There's also, say if you've got like a blog or a site which has loads of pages, you can add a template in, which I haven't got an example of, sorry. But if you can put a template in, and in something like Gatsby node here, you can pull in that data and map over it, and then push that out to a template, and then you can pass in a variable to the template and get the requisite information you'd need from your endpoint for that. But that's a bit too. Well, I haven't done it, so sorry. Okay, so that's at build time. So we can do it at runtime. Right, so this is the CLI. So this is what does all the magic, which is abstracted away from me, which I don't have to deal with. So there you go, there was an error there, that's why it isn't loading. Maybe I've broken something. Let's take a look. Failed to extract queries from components. It's possibly because I haven't got a great connection, and I haven't actually put any error handling into what I'm doing here. So what have we got going on here? That's fine. Let's go back to build time. Don't know. Okay, so let's try that one more time. This transforming of nodes, this would be, this is just because I've got a terrible signal on my phone, but this would be where it would bring in a lot of your assets from your endpoints and then start building your site. There's some good plugins for image handling, image compression, something called Sharp. It's a good library. We're back. Yay! Okay. So that's just my terrible reception on my phone. It's still not loading these images. That's fine. There we go. Cool. Where was I? Okay, runtime data. Cool. So you've got to wait even longer now because this data here for the build time, that should just be there each time, apart from for these image URLs, which are hot linking off to the source where it is. But if it's a lot of, if the files are local, you could handle them with, there's a lot of Gatsby plugins for handling images and compressions that do have all your different sizes for different devices, and it would size them accordingly for you. But because this is an external source and I haven't put any of that in, there is a special flag you need to add in, but I didn't do that, sorry. Okay, so the runtime data example. So this is in here. Let's look at that while it's loading. So we've got runtime data. Sort of the same, but we're not using that weird GraphQL bit like we've got in the build time data here, because we're just pushing our query straight off to our GraphQL endpoint here, and it's using an async call, and then we're getting some information from this Spotify endpoint. So that will take a while each time we want to reload that, because it has to go off, get the data, come back and populate it. So there is the drawback is you're doing it at runtime, but you've got we've got the header here. We could have sidebar. We could have lots of other information surrounding it. So the perception is that it's not slow, but you're just waiting for some of the data to come in. And I'm on a 3G connection here, so it looks atrocious. So so that's runtime data fetching, and yeah, I mean, this is what it's like, when you haven't got 3G and 5G all the time. So there you go. Okay, so we can also mix those two together. So we can have build time and runtime data. So here, this is the coin law REST API, but I have brought this into Gatsby at build time. So here you can create source nodes, and you can bring in the data you want. And like I said, it's the Gatsby schema is very permissive, so it will bring in that data and populate it best it can in your sort of your schema you've got, which you're working with. So that's at build time, but we can also do this at runtime as well, so you can get a sort of mixture of the two. So where are we with mixed data? Runtime, mixed data, here we go. Okay, so, and this comes to the thing where I spoke about, so it looks like 2 minutes, where I spoke about if your data changes, how do you know to update? You could do it this way, where you could have your build time data, depending on how many times a day your site is built. You could either trigger a build via your CI/CD process, or have it on a cron job, however you want to do it. So at the moment, if we go back here, because I don't know, what was this at? 2? It was at 1. Because the data is older than 1 minute, it's going to go off and get that information each time, which is a lot faster than that GraphQL endpoint. So 4 minutes. So if we say 5 minutes here, and then hit refresh, it's got the build time data. So I'm hitting refresh here, and it's just having the data which is local. But if I say 3, and hit refresh again, it will go off and get that data. So it is possible to have both, I won't say real-time data, but very current data on your project. So there's 2 ways of doing it. How did I do that? Did anyone want to go into detail on how that happened, or are you all just sort of glazed over and waiting to go home?
No, we wanted the details.
Cool, brilliant. So that's it for that really. Let's go back to the slides. So, the Graphical Explorer. Did anyone want to take a look at this? So, at build time, Gatsby node will go off and get this information here, and it'll put it into coin law. So we've got the schema puts it in as all coin law because I can't think of a good name for it. And then in here, this is where we can shape the data we want from our endpoint. So GraphQL, it's got quite a good Explorer. I don't think that was a great one to use. So if we've got nodes here, and then take a look at what we've got. Data. Sounds like I'll have something in it. Oh, there we go. Symbol, name. Okay, so over here, this is how we would get the data back into our project. And then if we take a look at where it is on the page, so this is built, this is mixed, here it is. So I'm using nothing on this side. Am I gonna risk doing some live coding? Right, so let's put this in here, and then we'll just put this at the bottom. So sorry, I didn't go through what was happening with this. Just got like a layout, the time difference. God, and then we're just using some conditional stuff to say whether we should render the local data or the stuff from the API. And then I was going to, at the bottom here, just put in this dump component. Okay, and props. What do we want in here? Coin law data. Let's try that. Cool. So yeah, okay. So down here we've got, this is how we get our data from our graphical endpoint. So it's very similar. I mean, I've put in a lot more sort of properties here to get back, but it's exactly the same shape as what you expect to get from the endpoint, really. Okay, so I think that is it.